changing the way we talk about and view mental health, particularly within the construction industry, as you know, is a real is so important to me, and I'm really passionate about changing that dialogue as to how we break the stigma, how we actually make it easier to talk about it. And one of the reasons is because the construction industry, can't say it, the construction industry is very male dominated. And men traditionally don't talk. They do talk. We talk about all sorts of things. We talk about sport. We talk about the weather. We talk about our work. But we're more often than not, we're masking. We put on a mask and we're not actually feeling able, because it's perceived maybe as a weakness, to talk about how we really feel. And yet within the construction industry and within work, there is an enormous amount of stress. And where is that stress coming from? Where is that anxiety coming from? The anxiety to do a job well? What will others think of me? To please your employers? To not want to appear weak and let people down? There are so many areas, to a customer, to doing a job because you're being paid to do a job. And that brings its own level of stress and anxiety. How do we talk about that? How do we be honest and actually talk about it? 83% of us within the industry have experienced mental health problems. Well, that's massive, isn't it? When you go to building merchants and all around and you're talking on your job or you're talking within your colleagues, that should really translate that we would hear a lot more about who's struggling and who's not. And yet we don't. We hardly hear a thing. 83%. The construction industry and all the things around that, all the various things, has the highest suicide rate of any industry. Any industry. Highest rate of suicide. Why is that? So it's an enormously stressful place for lots of us to be in. And although it's not always work-related stress, some of it is, because life is challenging, isn't it? Life is incredibly challenging for most of us, and we go through periods. But what we seem to not be able to do as men, or we struggle, is to talk and say, you know what, I'm having a bad day. I'm having a really hard time at the minute. This is going on in my life. This is going on in my life. Because stuff always does go on. Life happens to all of us, all around. And yet, we're not talking. And I want to be able to help us, to encourage us to talk and to share. It's one of the most important things we could do. You're 10 times, according to whatever stats you look at, but upwards of 10 times more likely within the industry to die from suicide than from a work-related incident. And within the construction industry, there are lots of work-related injuries. And we're working with hazardous stuff. And yet you stand more chance of dying from suicide up to 10 times more. Why are we not talking about this? How many days are lost? Working days are lost. We're into, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of days that are lost to productivity. Productivity is lost due to mental health. But what do we say is wrong with us? What do we say? Or what are we doing to enable us to continue to work, to continue to do the things actually that bring us, that was the reasons we got into this industry, is because we like to make things, we like to build things. And yet the stress is almost intolerable and unbearable. So what should we look out for? What should we look out for? I've got a little list here. Maybe we can be looking out for our colleagues, our mates, our friends, the people we work with. But what are we looking out for? I've got a little list here. Increased absenteeism Absenteeism, increased absenteeism. So people going absent more regularly. Decreased productivity, decreased self-confidence. People are just lacking. They used to be really confident, but somehow I'm just noticing they're not as confident as they used to be. Maybe they're isolating from co-workers, from peers, from the people. They're starting to isolate more. Agitation and increased conflict with co-workers. Maybe there's more agitation, because that's a real big red flag. Increased feelings of being overwhelmed. Maybe the signs are there and we can actually, but we're just not picking up. And often people do that. Decreased problem solving abilities. It's just not problem solving in the way. They don't have the headspace anymore. Maybe substance abuse. Maybe some of that is going on. Near hits. So incidents, or maybe some injuries, more often than not. These are just some of the things that we could look out for. And actually, if they're happening and starting to happen on a more frequent basis, and we're noticing this, it's about just, how are you? Grabbing a brew. What's going on? Everything all right? I've noticed this. Here if you need me. We don't have to be an expert at being able to talk about mental health. It's just about being a friend. But actually, what we want to do, what I want to encourage, is that we just break down the barriers. People call it stigma. It's called that we feel it's stigmatized, that we can't share. Let's just make an environment where it's easier to talk about. And then we're going to find, if we are doing this, and we can only look out for the people around us. We can't look out for anyone else, but we can be checking in on the people within our orbit, within our circle of who we see. So let's do our best. Let's make it our own personal challenge to change the environment that we work in, to change what we do, and actually just to say, how are you? No, how really are you? Do you want a beer? Do you want a coffee? Do you want a tea? Should we go for breakfast and just catch up? Let's make it our goal and our mission to change how we talk and how we perceive mental health, and that it's okay to talk about it, particularly as men. This has been another woodworking and wellbeing video, so check out some of the others. I'll put some of them up here, but you can go on the playlist. You can check out on the channel. There's lots there, and go and check them out. So from me, Mark, take good care.